This is Matthew Cratter from Bitcoin University, and today I wanted to talk about should you put 100% of your money into Bitcoin. This is not investment advice or tax advice or even psychological advice, but it's a question I get quite often. Should I put 10%, 50%, 80%, 100% of my net worth into Bitcoin? And when people ask me that, it always reminds me of a famous story about Mozart. A man came to Mozart and asked him how to write a symphony. Mozart replied, "You're too young to write a symphony." The man said, you were writing symphonies when you were 10 years of age, and I am 21. And Mozart replied to him, "Yes, but I didn't run around asking people how to do it." That's an anecdote that I got from Charlie Munger many years ago, and you can probably understand the irony of me quoting it in a video to defend Bitcoin. I think Munger would not like that, but I think it's a similar story where if you have to ask anyone whether you should have X percentage of your net worth in Bitcoin or in anything else, the answer is clearly no, you shouldn't. You need to wait until you've done enough research where you couldn't care less what other people think because you are so strong in your conviction. And it's not a conviction based on sand, but it's a conviction built on a foundation of stone because you've done your research. And you'll know you're ready to allocate significant amounts of your net worth, your savings into Bitcoin, when you're lying in bed every night worrying about why you still hold so much fiat money like US dollars, euros, yen, etc., why you still hold so much dead in the water stocks, why you still hold so many treasuries, so many bonds that yield less than the true inflation rate, so you're losing purchasing power every year, why you still own shiny yellow rocks or shiny silver rocks, also why you might still own wooden structures with terrible tenants and property taxes and insurance costs and high maintenance costs where you always have to replace a leaky roof, there's always an overflown toilet, and there's always a need for new carpet and new paint, etc. This is how rental properties, how real estate leaks economic energy and eats into your returns. Now, there's no shortcut to becoming a Bitcoin long-term investor or hodler. You need to do your own homework and put in the time and research, and as we say in Bitcoin, proof of work, because asking other people how much Bitcoin they own tells you nothing really about how much Bitcoin you should own. You have a completely unique situation. You have different income, different savings, different risk tolerance. Everyone is different in this way, and people are at different stages in their lives as well. And the other question is whether you would even be able to handle that volatility once you are up to that certain allocation that you're proposing. Now, I was personally still loading up on Bitcoin. I began to buy it as a hodler in 2019. I was still loading up on it all the way to the top back in 2021. So I was still buying it even in the 40,000s, the 50,000s, and the 60,000s. I bought all the way up from the 2019 bottom to the 2021 peak, and then I kept buying all the way down back to below 16,000 back in last November. Over that period, I sold my gold stocks, I sold my rental houses, and I put the money into Bitcoin as I gained more and more conviction. I even sold a car and put the money into Bitcoin. In fact, I tried to liquidate every possible investment that I owned that was possible to liquidate and put into Bitcoin. And those of you who have invested in VC funds and venture capital funds know that it usually takes a decade or longer to get liquidity for some position. So unfortunately, I haven't been able to put that money into Bitcoin yet. But as soon as the liquidity comes, either from a sale or from an IPO, I look forward to moving that money as well into Bitcoin. The other thing I did is I changed the name of my business and the channel, this YouTube channel, from Trader University to Bitcoin University, and in the process alienated literally thousands of subscribers, some of whom still send me mocking emails and keep asking me why I don't cover momentum stocks like I used to, why I just talk about Bitcoin. So I basically moved my entire life and business onto a Bitcoin standard, and this was not something that happened overnight, but really happened over a period of 3 or 4 years. Have I ever regretted it for a moment? Has the fiat price drawdown of the last 2 years ever stressed me out? No, it actually hasn't, but only because I made sure that my level of understanding of Bitcoin kept pace with its level in my portfolio. And if I hadn't put in so many hours into trying to understand Bitcoin and learning alongside all of you, I'm sure that I would have sold some or all of my Bitcoin in this brutal bear market, because it really has been a brutal bear market. Conclusion: holding Bitcoin without understanding Bitcoin is a recipe for disaster. You'll never survive the FUD. You'll never survive the volatility. And that's why it's very, very important to do a lot of research and not rush into large allocations to Bitcoin. And this is why you can't ask other people how much of your money you should put in Bitcoin, because the answer will be different for everyone based on their life circumstances. I will leave you with a warning though, and I believe I got this from Bitcoin Tina, though I couldn't find it online. Invest only as much money in fiat as you're willing to lose. I like this phrasing because it really inverts the question of how much you're willing to lose in Bitcoin, because we do know that fiat itself is guaranteed to lose over longer periods of time. And the way you lose investing in fiat, like US dollars or euros or Australian dollars or Canadian dollars or yen, etc., you lose because of inflation, because the purchasing power of that money goes down. So it's almost like an inflation tax. You lose through bank failures at the end of the cycle, as we're seeing now. You lose through bank bail-ins as well. I want to remind you of what happened in Cyprus, in a very civilized first world country, where they basically confiscated billions of dollars as part of a bail-in. A bailout is where you get external money that bails out usually the shareholders of a bank and maybe some of the depositors. But in this case, what happened is the depositors' own deposits, the savers' own savings, were used to bail out the banking system. And as it says in the second paragraph here, depositors in 2 Cypriot banks lost billions when savings were confiscated to protect the island's banking system in 2013. Something like, if you had over 100,000 euros, they took something like 40 or 45% of it in the process, which is called a bail-in. And then when those people who had held those bank accounts at those banks tried to sue, the court basically ruled against them. The court concludes that the individuals and companies which initiated the actions have not succeeded in demonstrating an infringement of the right to property. In other words, these people did not have a right to their own money they were storing in the bank. So don't expect the courts to save you either in a situation like this. These are the dangers of investing in fiat. If you hold fiat, maybe you'll get lucky and your fiat will only lose 85% of its value over the next 50 years. That's basically what the US dollar did over the past 50 years. And the US dollar is actually really, if you think about it, it's got to be the most wildly successful fiat money in the history of the world. And it really pioneered fiat when Nixon took the US dollar off the gold standard for good in 1971. But the US dollar is as good as it gets, and this is what as good as it gets looks like, where it's fallen from purchasing power worth $6.39 in 1970 to purchasing power of just $1 for $1 in 2020. So it's even gone lower than this chart shows since 2020. But this is what fiat does. Now, in your process of doing research, if you have questions about Bitcoin, I want to draw your attention to a way of using my channel. If you just go here to the search button on the home page here, and you can type in any keyword and it will give you a whole list of videos that I've made on that topic. So people always ask me, have you covered this? Have you covered that? Here's a way that you can verify and check for yourself. So for example, I did a search for quantum here, and you can scroll down and see 3 videos or more on quantum. So this is a good research to use as you're learning more and more about Bitcoin. Also, feel free to ask questions in the comments and propose topics for new videos. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit that subscribe and like button. Hit the notification bell if you want to be notified when I publish my next video, and let me know your questions and comments. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.